Did Elvis really sing about teddy bears coming to life? Was the king of rock and roll secretly obsessed with nonsensical lyrics? Could some of Elvis Presley's biggest hits actually make no sense at all? Elvis Presley remains one of music's most iconic figures decades after his death, with a catalog of songs that defined generations. But beneath the hip-shaking, smooth, crooning exterior lies a collection of songs with lyrics that might leave you scratching your head. From bizarre metaphors to completely nonsensical phrases, the king had his fair share of odd lyrical moments that somehow still managed to charm millions of fans worldwide. Number 7. All Shook Up. You've heard it 1,000 times. The infectious rhythm, the unmistakable voice, and the weight. What's he actually singing about? All Shook Up remains one of Elvis's most recognizable hits. But have you ever really listened to what he's saying? The song starts innocently enough with Elvis describing the symptoms of being in love. Well, bless my soul, what's wrong with me? I'm itching like a man on a fuzzy tree. Hold up. A man on a fuzzy tree. What exactly is a fuzzy tree? And why would someone be climbing it in the first place? Is this some kind of Southern expression that didn't quite make it into the mainstream, or was Elvis just making stuff up as he went along? But the bizarreness doesn't stop there. As the song continues, Elvis tells us his friends say I'm acting wild as a bug. Bugs certainly have a reputation for erratic behavior, but it's not exactly the most romantic comparison. Then comes the real kicker. I'm in love. I'm all shook up. While shook up eventually entered our lexicon as a way to describe being rattled or excited at the time. It was a peculiar way to describe romantic feelings. The nonsense continues with lines like, my hands are shaky and my knees are weak. I can't seem to stand on my own 2 feet. Medical professionals might diagnose these symptoms as something requiring immediate attention, but in Elvis's world, they're just signs of being head over heels in love. Elvis then claims his tongue gets tied when he tries to speak, which might explain the bizarre lyrics. Perhaps the most puzzling line comes when he sings, I'm proud to say that she's my buttercup. I'm in love. I'm all shook up. Buttercup, the small yellow flower. A character from The Princess Bride. We may never know what he meant, but millions of fans didn't seem to mind. Written by Otis Blackwell, All Shook Up topped the charts for 8 weeks in 1957. Apparently, nonsense sells when delivered with Elvis's signature, sneer and swivel. Number 6. Viva Las Vegas. Bright lights, gambling, and vitamins. Viva Las Vegas paints a vibrant picture of Sin City, but some of the details are downright strange when you take a closer look. The song begins normally enough with Elvis describing the neon signs and constant activity of Las Vegas. But then he takes an unexpected turn. Bright light city gonna set my soul on fire. Is this a spiritual awakening in the gambling capital of the world? Or perhaps a warning about the desert heat? As Elvis continues his ode to Las Vegas, he throws in this gem. There's 1,000 pretty women waitin' out there, and they're all livin' devil may care. And I'm just the devil with love to spare. Did Elvis just call himself the devil? In the 1960s, comparing oneself to Satan wasn't exactly common practice for mainstream musicians, especially ones with Elvis's clean-cut image. The song gets even more bizarre when Elvis proclaims, "How I wish that there were more than the 24 hours in the day. 'Cause even if there were 40 more, I wouldn't sleep a minute away." Basic mathematics and human physiology suggest this would be a terrible idea, leading to severe sleep deprivation and potential health problems. But in Elvis's Las Vegas, who needs sleep? Perhaps the most nonsensical part comes when Elvis abruptly mentions, "Oh, there's blackjack and poker and the roulette wheel, a fortune won and lost on every deal. All you need's a strong heart and a nerve of steel." While listing gambling games makes sense for a Las Vegas anthem, the sudden shift to discussing cardiac strength and metallic nerves comes out of nowhere. Despite the odd lyrics, Viva Las Vegas became synonymous with the city itself. Written by Doc Pomus and Mort Schumann for the 1964 film of the same name, the song transcended its somewhat bizarre lyrics to become an enduring classic that still plays throughout the Strip today. Number 5. Teddy Bear. Grown man sings about being a child's stuffed toy. That's exactly what happened with Teddy Bear. And somehow, it became one of Elvis's biggest hits, despite its strange premise and even stranger lyrics. The song opens with Elvis declaring, "Baby, let me be your lovin' teddy bear." Right away, we're in weird territory. Is he asking for permission to transform into a stuffed animal? Is this a metaphor that's lost its meaning over the decades? Either way, it sets the tone for a song filled with peculiar comparisons. Elvis continues with, "Put a chain around my neck and lead me anywhere." Now we've moved from cuddly teddy bear to something that sounds more like a pet dog scenario. The imagery of Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, being led around on a chain like a pet is bizarre enough. But the contrast with the teddy bear metaphor makes it even more confusing. The song gets increasingly strange as Elvis proclaims, "I don't wanna be a tiger, 'cause tigers play too rough. I don't want to be a lion, 'cause lions ain't the kind you love enough." Was there a risk of him becoming a wild cat? Was this a common concern in the 1950s? The lyrics suggest a world where men regularly transform into various animals, and women have to choose which species they prefer their suitors to be. Perhaps the most nonsensical part comes when Elvis sings, "Just wanna be your teddy bear." This suggests that being a teddy bear is an actual option for him, alongside being a tiger or a lion. The song creates an alternate reality, where humans can somehow metamorphose into stuffed toys at will. Despite these bizarre lyrics, Teddy Bear topped the Billboard charts for 7 weeks in 1957 and sold over 1 million copies. Written by Cal Mann and Bernie Lowe, the song appeared in Elvis's movie Loving You and became one of his signature tunes, proving that sometimes the strangest lyrics make for the most memorable songs. Number 4. Jailhouse Rock. Prison never sounded so fun or so confusing. Jailhouse Rock paints a picture of a correctional facility that's more like a wild dance party than a place of punishment, with lyrics that make little sense in the context of actual prison life. The song begins with a warden throwing a party in the county jail, which seems like an unlikely event in any real prison. As the song progresses, we learn that the prison band was there, and they began to wail. Prison bands certainly existed, but the image of inmates having a rocking concert with the blessing of prison authorities stretches credibility. Things get truly bizarre when Elvis sings. Number 47 said to number 3, "You're the cutest jailbird I ever did see." This suggests a romantic or flirtatious interaction between male inmates, as women and men would not be housed together, which was a surprisingly progressive implication for a song released in 1957. Whether intentional or not, this line stands out as particularly nonsensical, given the era's strict social codes. The lyrics continue with reference to the whole rhythm section was the Purple Gang, which might be a reference to the notorious Detroit gang of the same name. However, why they would be playing music in a prison, or why they'd be described as a rhythm section, remains unclear. Perhaps the most nonsensical line comes when Elvis proclaims, "Spider Murphy played the tenor saxophone, Little Joe was blowing on the slide trombone, the drummer boy from Illinois went crash, boom, bang." The whole rhythm section was the Purple Gang. This oddly specific description of the band members, including their home states, instruments, and sound effects, feels like it was written to fill space rather than tell a coherent story. Written by Jerry Leiber and Mike Stoller for Elvis's 1957 movie of the same name, Jailhouse Rock became one of Presley's most enduring hits, despite, or perhaps because, of its bizarre portrayal of prison life. The song topped the U.S. charts for 7 weeks and became a defining rock and roll anthem, proving that sometimes nonsense set to a good beat is all you need for a hit. Number 3. Blue suede shoes. Don't step on them. But why? Blue suede shoes might be one of rock and roll's earliest anthems, but its premise, extreme devotion to footwear, is more than a little strange when you think about it. Originally written and recorded by Carl Perkins, Elvis's version of Blue Suede Shoes became the more famous rendition. The song revolves around a man's obsessive protection of his blue suede shoes, to the point where he'd rather people burn down his house, steal his car, or even drink his liquor than damage his precious footwear. The lyrics begin with the famous, "Well, it's 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready. Now go, cat, go." This children's counting rhyme seems out of place as the opening to a rock and roll song, but it somehow works as a memorable intro. Things take a turn toward the bizarre when Elvis starts listing what you can do to him instead of stepping on his blue suede shoes. "You can do anything but stay off of my blue suede shoes," Elvis warns, before elaborating that "you can knock me down, step in my face, slander my name all over the place." This extreme privatization of shoe protection over personal dignity makes little sense. Who would prefer facial injury to scuffed shoes? The song continues with Elvis declaring, "You can burn my house, steal my car, drink my liquor from an old fruit jar." Again, the singer seems willing to lose his home, transportation, and alcohol rather than have someone damage his shoes. This level of attachment to footwear borders on psychological disorder rather than simple fashion consciousness. Perhaps the strangest aspect is that blue suede shoes weren't even particularly common in the 1950s. They were a luxury item, not a standard piece of men's fashion, making the song's premise even more unusual. The narrator seems to have invested his entire identity in a rare fashion choice, then built his life values around protecting it. Released in 1956, Elvis's version of Blue Suede Shoes climbed to pound 20 on the Billboard charts, despite, or perhaps because of, its bizarre premise of footwear obsession. The song has endured as a rock classic, proving that sometimes the most nonsensical concepts make for the most memorable music. Number 2. Hound Dog. Accusing someone of being a canine. That's the premise of one of Elvis's biggest hits. Hound dog throws accusations at an unnamed person, comparing them to a dog in ways that make little logical sense but somehow created rock and roll magic. Originally written for Big Mama Thornton by Jerry Leiber and Mike Stoller, Hound Dog underwent significant lyrical changes when Elvis recorded it. The original version made sense as a woman's complaint about a freeloading man, but Elvis's version removed much of the context, leaving a string of bizarre accusations that don't quite add up. The song begins with Elvis declaring, "You ain't nothing but a hound dog crying all the time." This immediately raises questions. Why is he comparing someone to a dog? And do hounds actually cry particularly often compared to other dog breeds? Dog experts might disagree with this characterization of hounds, which are generally known for their stoicism rather than excessive whining. Things get even more confusing when Elvis continues, "You ain't never caught a rabbit, and you ain't no friend of mine." This suggests that friendship with Elvis was contingent on rabbit hunting abilities, which seems like an oddly specific criterion for human relationships. Additionally, most pet dogs aren't expected to catch rabbits, making this criticism seem especially unfair if the subject is actually a dog. The second verse offers this gem. "When they said you was high-classed, well, that was just a lie." Elvis seems to be simultaneously addressing a dog while discussing social class, which creates a surreal mixture of animal metaphor and social commentary. Can dogs even be high-classed in any meaningful sense? Despite these nonsensical lyrics, or perhaps because of them, Hound Dog became one of Elvis's signature songs. Released in 1956, it spent 11 weeks at #1 on the charts and sold over 10 million copies worldwide. Sometimes the strangest lyrics create the most memorable songs, especially when delivered with Elvis's characteristic sneer and energy. Number 1. Return to Sender. Lost Mail or Lost Love. Return to Sender tells the story of a man trying to reconcile with an ex through the postal service, with lyrics that reveal a bizarre misunderstanding of how mail delivery actually works. The premise of the song is simple enough. Elvis is trying to send a letter to a former lover who doesn't want to hear from him. However, the details of how this plays out make very little sense from a practical standpoint. The song begins normally with Elvis explaining, "I gave a letter to the postman. He put it in his sack." So far, so good. This is indeed how mail worked in the 1960s and how it still works today. The problems begin when the letter is returned to him, marked "Return to Sender." Address unknown, no such number, no such zone. This raises immediate questions. If Elvis knows this person well enough to be romantically involved with them, how does he not know their correct address? Furthermore, if the address is truly unknown with no such number, how did the postal service know where to return the letter? Without a return address, undeliverable mail would typically go to the dead letter office, not back to the sender. Things get even stranger when Elvis tries again writing a new address on the letter. He then claims he sent it special, true presumably meaning special delivery, which would have cost extra money. Why would someone pay more for expedited service on a letter that had already been returned as undeliverable without first verifying the new address? The most nonsensical part comes next. So then I dropped it in the mailbox, and I sent it Special D. It came back 3 days later with a note that said, "Not only did the letter make a remarkably fast round trip, But now the recipient is actively writing notes on the returned mail, telling Elvis, "Nobody by that name lives at this address." This suggests the address was correct, contradicting the earlier "no such number" explanation. Elvis then takes an even more bizarre approach, deciding to deliver the letter personally. He sings, "This time, I'm gonna take it myself and put it right in her hand." If he knows where she lives well enough to deliver the letter in person, why go through the postal service at all? And if he didn't know her address before, how did he suddenly discover it? Return to Sender was written by Winfield Scott and Otis Blackwell for Elvis's 1962 film Girls, Girls, Girls. Despite its logistical impossibilities, the song reached #2 on the Billboard Hot 100 and sold over 1 million copies. Sometimes a good melody trumps logical consistency, especially when delivered by the king of rock and roll. Did Elvis know his lyrics made little sense? Were these bizarre words deliberately crafted to stand out, or did they just happen to capture the public's imagination? Could these nonsensical psalms actually reveal a deeper artistic genius that transcends conventional meaning?